I can't. Okay, well, welcome to the January 4th, 2022 session of Tangerine SDR and HamSci technical session. My name is Dave, KV0S, and I've been working basically on a few small projects, but I haven't made a huge amount of progress yet. A few things around the house that have to be taken care of. So that's about it for me. Next on the list, I think Nathaniel's still out taking care of his son. So we'll come back to him. Jim, K4BSE. Go ahead, Jim.
Good evening, all. I'm going to be a short timer tonight, by the way. I developed an infection of all places on the ball of my foot. And the doctor got the infection out, but it's still driving me up a wall. And so if I all of a sudden jump around on the chair, that'll be the reason. I'll be ducking out fairly soon. Well, I haven't had a lot of time to do anything with the holidays. I have been continuing to monitor WWV propagation on 10 megahertz. And I've seen something curious last few days. I don't know if anybody else has seen it or not. Everything seemed to be going pretty well until the 31st, about 1500 UTC. And all of a sudden the bottom dropped out of the signal. And it's been back a couple of times for a hour or two, but been practically nothing since then. I have checked it with an independent receiver, independent antenna, everything independent, and no sign of the signal there. So it appears to be something in that area that just not there. I don't know if anybody else has seen anything like that or not, but otherwise I've been pretty useless. Back to Net, K4BSE.
Okay, and next on the list is Bill, AB4EJ. Right?
AB4EJ, yeah. Happy New Year, all. Jim, in response to your question, were you talking about you lost the 5 megahertz signal from WWV? Is that what you're?
10 megahertz.
Oh, okay. Because I've got my 5 megahertz brake monitor running now. It seems to be working, and there's a signal that's there.
No, I'm hearing 5 megahertz fine at night.
Okay.
But it's just 10 megahertz has disappeared.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. It could be some propagation thing, but anyway, that's all I had. And other than that, negative traffic. Back to that.
Okay, next on the list is Bill in 8ET. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, about recovered from Christmas and the grandkids. Got a 3D printer over Christmas, and so I've been working with that. Finally got it to print out a sample pig yesterday. Today I've set it off on a 20-hour print job to print a drawer that goes underneath it so I can store the tools and all the junk they sent with the printer. So it looks like it was, at least the last time I went down and looked at the print, it was coming along fine. But other than that, I haven't done too much. And can you receive that 10 megahertz signal now, or do you think it's not there now? Jim, go ahead.
It doesn't appear to be there now. Or it wasn't a few minutes ago. I'll mute and check again in just a second.
Yeah, I'll take a look here and see if I can hear it on my receiver. So maybe WWV has gone off the air for some reason. So back to you there, Dave.
Okay, I will jump back to Nathaniel, W2NAF. Go ahead.
Thanks, Dave. Things are going fine. It was a very nice Christmas and New Year's. The best. I hear a little FT8 or something in there. Let's see. I did get the Daisy annual report submitted. I know Christina got hers in, and Travis and Bill got theirs in as well. So that's all in with the NSF. So hopefully we have met our administrative responsibilities for this year. And now I'm working on doing the final revisions, hopefully the final revisions on this paper I'm trying to get submitted with the ham radio LST ID. So I just got some comments back from co-authors. I'm trying to integrate those now. So W2.5 back to net.
Okay. Next on the list is David in one HAC. Go ahead, David.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year and all that. Not much to report, except the immediate is I am receiving 10 megahertz WWV and WWVH here in New Hampshire, both about equal strength right now. So it's definitely on the air. Somebody's sitting in a null. Back to net.
Okay. And next on the list is David, KE8QEP. Go ahead, David.
Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Yeah, I'm still getting WWV 10 megahertz on my grape. I feel like the signals had been lower, but I just finished moving it to the basement, and I got the pi removed farther away from the grape, and that seems to have helped with some of the interference. I do feel like it's been going lower at night than it used to, but I had it down for a while when we had a new fence installed. So I'm getting it now, you know, if not, it's a little weak. But I also got a new radio. I live 15 minutes from DX Engineering, and so I had a little indiscretion, and I got a new Yaesu 991A, which I've been enjoying, although I've only made one contact. I'm still just a technician, so I can't get on too many bands, but I did make one 10-meter contact. I made a whole bunch last year on my G90, but I have decided I think I'll upgrade to general to be like all the cool kids. Maybe not as cool as the extras, but you know. That's it. Back to net.
Very good. Now you got incentive to do that. So anyway, next on the list is Gary, AF8A. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Happy New Year and whatnot. Quick update on the Ham-Sci Contesting League. We've now got seven participants for the North American QSO Party, which is less than 3 weeks away. So if usually as these things go, we get more entrants and registrants as the contest draws closer. But I think I may also approach Dave Schwartz and the WWV ARC and ask if some of the members there would want to join our team too and beef up our numbers a little bit. But if anybody's interested or thinking or got questions, obviously let me know. And that's it. Back to net.
Well, fine business. And next on the list is James, KG4 DSG. Go ahead, James.
Good evening, Dave and the group. Just listening in as usual. Looks like we got a pretty good crew here tonight. Not much to report with that. Back to the net.
Okay. Next on the list, we have JWB8 SBI. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, happy New Year, everybody. Just like everybody else, not a whole heck of a lot going on up here in the northern suburbs of Detroit. I've been busy with Society of Automotive Engineers, cybersecurity stuff. So it's going to be that way for another month for me. So that'll be kind of occupying my time. Looking forward to the March Ham Science in Alabama. Starting to hope that, yes, we can get hotels and reservation and that it will be an in-person event this year. I'm kind of hoping that. Nathaniel, or I wanted to ask the space weather lady, who's one of the featured speakers there. Do you have a contact information for her, an email? Because I would like to invite her to participate in a Zoom meeting and present at some of our local radio clubs here. And I don't know how to get in contact with her.
Yes, I can. Let's see. I'm not sure which email she uses for the general public. Do you have you checked that?
No, I haven't.
Let me see what she has. Yeah. I'll get back to you and I'll put something in the chat. Okay.
In the chat is QSL. Okay, guys, other than that, and nothing really new here, just cruising along and working 20 meters FT8 when I get the chance. 7-3 to all, and hopefully everybody is staying safe, staying well. Back to net from WB at SBI.
Fine business. Next on the list is Joe, W7LUX. Go ahead, Joe.
Good evening, everyone, and sure hope everybody has a really great year here in 2022. Mostly been spending time relocating snow. It's we've had a fair amount of it, and helping the significant other with her snow removal too. Grape is running, and I'm sitting here looking at the last two charts, and signal strength is relatively low from approximately 0 until about 1400 UTC, except for a time around 0600. And before that, it was the preceding day. It was quite strong. So WWV is running, and I'm getting it out here, but I'm having trouble finding the files to transfer over from the Grape. And everybody have a really, really great great year. Thanks, Dave.
Yep. And next on the list is Jonathan, KC3EEY. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Hi, everybody. I had a pretty a pretty eventful week. There was a lot of discussion that I had with Paul Nicholson, the author of VLFRX Tools, and what kind of spurred that along was the harmonics in my SAQ spectrum plot. I wrote an email to the group with Paul's discussion and his notes. He's kind of an expert at receiving receiving VLF at home in high hum environments and dealing with the problems that come from dirty grounds and issues where there's a lot of hum harmonics, and everything's kind of laid out in the discussion. I posted it on both lists, Tapper and HamSci. I'm just wondering what you guys thought. Also, that kind of got me thinking about isolation on the magnetometer. I found an IC from TI that provides both I2C and power isolation, and that could be used on one end or at least both. The built-in DC to DC converter has enough power to power the magnetometer. And on the Pi side, for the isolation there, you could use a separate DC to DC converter, and there's another IC that just isolates just isolates I2C. I feel that isolation on the magnetometer would be a pretty good idea, not just for this case, but to keep any bad signals from going into the magnetometer. For example, Bill's talk about his experiment using the Raspberry Pi 4 and the magnetometer and he noticed there was some spurs on certain bands, and he was able to get rid of them by grounding the Raspberry Pi. But I feel isolation would be a pretty good idea, and it would also, you know, kill multiple birds with one stone. You know, that could be something for discussion on the next magnetometer revision, or something like that. But everything is in the email. Other than that, I did not have any. I did not get any whistlers. There's been quite a lot of noise on the band, so I couldn't get any natural radio events. But everything is still running nicely. Other than that, back to the net.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. And next on the list is Jules, K2KGJ. Go ahead, Jules.
Okay, I think I'm in. Is my audio coming through?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I missed the last couple for various family things and Christmas and New Year's going on. With respect to your recent emails, Jonathan, thanks for that information. As with regard to just a magnetometer installation alone, I don't think there's any problem. The problem comes in if you're running GRAPE or any, or the possible VLF, where some of the maybe carried on the I2C line might interfere with that reception. But with respect to interference to the magnetometer, we've seen absolutely nothing that affects the magnetometer so far regarding anything transmitted along the cable. What I've been doing for the past few weeks is to answer some questions Hammond had about a FluxGate magnetometer, FLC 100 by Stefan Mayer. I've been testing those, as so has Noel Pettit, been running tests on those as well. Finally managed to get a stable, one of the principal problems with that magnetometer is it has an analog output. And if it's remotely located, it also has an AD converter with it. And both of those things need a very stable, temperature stable reference at 5 volts, preferably 0.5% or better. I finally managed to create one. Didn't have the headroom at the end of the line, so I'm currently using a battery pack to supply an LDO regulator based around a very precision reference source. And now gotten some decent recordings on surface level over a daily variation of temperature of 3 or 4 daily. And the temperature coefficient of the FLC 100 FluxGate is substantially higher than the RM 3100. And if that magnetometer is to be employed, it needs much better temperature regulation. Burying it may not be sufficient. It may be necessary to regulate within better than 0.5 degrees C. Doing some additional tests on that. As I say, the temperature coefficient looks like it's as high as 20 nanoteslas, 25 nanoteslas per degree or more. The accuracy looks decent. The sensitivity is good. Doesn't require as much averaging and noise reduction as the RM3100, but it's a much more sensitive magnetometer in the sense of voltage and supply voltage and temperature sensitivity. So more testing underway on that. I did manage to try something which we had talked about earlier when we first looked at the extension, the differential I2C extension, and that is it possible to daisy chain another I2C differential converter, another 9615 somewhere along the line without interfering with the I2C bus itself. And I now have an installation which has a 9615 unterminated about 3 feet from the end point of one of the magnetometers, which is where I'm currently running the FLC 100 magnetometer test. And there's absolutely no interference with the I2C line. Everything sees everything else. They're totally independent. and it works very well. So it is possible to actually have multiple devices along that I2C cable. Those are the principal things I've been working on. The next thing is an above ground temperature chamber that can control to at least a degree C or better. That may work over, in these temperatures anyway, from let's say 0 degrees C up to maybe 30 degrees C ambience, which would require approximately an internal temperature of about 40 degrees C for a control temperature. So I'm currently working on that as well as an alternate to below ground magnetometer work for the 3100 and anything else you might want to try. That's pretty much it for the week here.
Well, very good, Jules. I must mention, Dave Witten is not here tonight because today he had cataract surgery on his second eye. So he's much happier, except his eyes are dilated. So
Yeah.
anyway, so he
Well,
felt like he couldn't be much value online tonight.
oh, he's going to be a lot happier after this.
Yes. He said, oh, there's all this stuff I couldn't see. Anyway, next on the list is John, KG6 IBP. John, do you have any comments?
I can't think of anything for this meeting. I'm here this time to mostly listen and maybe even learn something.
Oh, okay. And next on the list, we have Michael, AAAK. I bet there's a story about that hat.
Yeah, that's the real article. My cousin got that in Russia. It's official military hat. But anyway.
Seems not to fit quite right.
Hey, it's a big head. Bolshoi. Someday I'll talk about my brother flying into Moscow with a suitcase loaded with prescription drugs.
Maybe you better not.
Anyway, greetings to everyone. Back to you, Dave.
Okay, next on the list, I think nobody jumped in the middle. So it's Scotty, WA2 DFI. Go ahead, Scotty.
Okay, let's see, I can't seem to turn the camera on here. There we go.
There you are.
I snuck in on you. Well, not a lot going on for the holiday week, but did manage to do a reconnoitering of the magnetometer for the build that we're going to do. And of course, there's one part that I can't get. I managed to find substitutes for everything. And I was going to ask Dave Witten, but hopefully he's feeling better with his surgery over with now. I can't get the MCP 9808 temperature sensor anymore. It's on back order forever. But there is a 9804, which is nearly as accurate. I think it has a 1 degree C accuracy versus 0.5 degrees C. And it looks, as far as I can tell, all the registers are the same. So the question is, can I use that part in place of a 9808? Because DigiKey has tons of those.
Yeah, Scotty, I would say offhand, no, that preferably would even like a 1/4 degree C if we can get it, but 1 degree C isn't quite good enough. What's the resolution on the photo?
Well, it's maximum 1 and typical 1/2.
Okay, what's the resolution?
Just a second here. Actually, 9804 is typically a 1/4 degree from 40 to minus 40 to plus 125. And it's plus or minus 1 degree C maximum. So it's typical 1/4, maximum 1. And 1 LSB repeatability. The resolution, I'm looking to see what's you're looking for is what's the ADC, right? What's the step size?
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to look through this and see if I can find this.
Well, you know, I could order one here and actually install it in parallel with what I've got out in the field now and actually do some tests in the next week or so.
Because so I'm going to look back at the 9808, which is the one that we're using now. And let's see what it says for. Okay, so it says typical 1/4 degree, maximum 0.5. So the only difference is this is a tighter tolerance chip.
Right.
And it looks like it's 0.0625 degrees C is their repeatability. So I'm going to guess that's probably your LSB.
Okay, on both of those or just the 9808?
On both of them.
Okay.
I'm going to guess that they're just a selected version.
Yeah, probably.
But it could be as much as a degree off instead of half a degree off. So that may not be good.
Well, it's more the, it's not so much the absolute temperature as tracking the actual change in temperature over a period of time. So let's say if it's off by 1 degree and your temperature track, if I look at a 5 degree C span or a 2 degree C span, if the steps are still the same for both, it doesn't matter if the absolute value is off by a little bit.
Okay, well, so what you're saying is if as long as I can repeat the same reading for the same temperature, then I'm okay.
Yeah, we're really, that's for all practical purposes, yes. Yep.
Well, because it says user selectable measurement resolution of 0.5, 0.25, 0.125, or 0.0625. So that's half, quarter, eighth, or 16th of a degree.
It should be fine.
And then it says a 16th of a degree C repeatability.
Yeah.
Typical.
Yeah, again, that's the important part. And I think that part's fine. I don't think there's a problem with it because we're not looking really at absolute temperature here.
Okay. And I believe we ought to be able to read a register and tell which part's on here. So
sure.
So we ought to be able to identify the ones that have this part as opposed to the other part, which is useful.
And the pinout's the same, I'm assuming.
Identical, right?
Yeah. So I don't see any problem. There should be zero problem with that.
Okay. However, the other problem is the 9615, the I2C part. No substitutes, no parts until the end of 2022.
Ooh.
So I don't know what we can do now. I'm perfectly willing to modify the board layout with another part, but most of the other parts I've seen, and apparently you can get multi-channel versions of this part. You can get those, but they're much larger packages and they're much more expensive. So I'm not sure what to do. It's just like the data engine is like you get down to the wire and there's one part that you can't get and that's all it takes, and then you're out of luck. So
well, the first, the pressure on that could ease before the end of 20, but their best guess at this point is the end of 22. So who knows?
Yeah, I don't know, because I think they just put 52 weeks in.
Yeah.
And so I don't think they know when they're going to get them. So, but I know one thing is that we can't get them now. So kind of puts the kibosh on the build that I wanted to do, because we got it right down to pretty good pricing, and the pricing has gone up about 15%, believe it or not, between the time we first priced it and now for the parts. And the price for the assembly and fab of the board has gone up maybe 5%. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to hold the $100 price line for the kit. So we may have to go to, $5 or $10 more, which is unfortunate, but because I think $99.99 is a psychological barrier, There's a reason why Walmart prices things in 99s, right? So, but I'm not really as worried about that as I'm worried about just being able to build it at all. That's that's where we're at right now. So I'm still trying to figure out what we can do about that 9615. But it's unfortunately, it's not like the temperature sensor where there's hundreds to choose from and there's a lot of them that are pin compatible.
Yeah.
That's just like one of a kind. And
right.
If you can't get it, it's like the FPGA, you can't get that, you're out of luck. So that's it for this week. Thanks, Jules.
Right.
Yeah, I'll pass that along to Dave too. I saw him today. I actually took him to his appointment, and so he's doing fine. He just felt tired today.
Yeah.
Scotty, Every
ahead.
time you come on with the parts, it's always more bad news.
I know. I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't show up once in a while to cheer the place up.
Oh.
I thought for sure
I wrote a whole paragraph in the annual report about us building the magnetometers and saying we're almost ready for the build. And then there's a section where you're supposed to put real or anticipated problems. And I wrote that, like the data engine, we're not sure. We're starting to find that we can't get these parts. And I said, I don't know if this will be resolved in, 2 weeks or if it'll be months. So
You
I
can
don't know.
imagine all the jobs that I'm doing now, all our hardware jobs, every single one of them has the same problem. So
Yeah.
it makes me really want to go be a software guy or something. I mean, how would you like it to say, well, we're not gonna allow you to use a for loop.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
Those are unavailable today. You have to program around it.
Scotty, you there?
Yeah.
I heard a short spiel on a podcast today. Gentleman that's in the electronics consulting business and said he couldn't get the part he needed, but he finally found an offshore source. But instead of ordering the 20 devices he needed, he bought 500. And the other person on the podcast goes, "You're the reason we have no parts."
Yeah.
And it's probably true. Everybody's buying up large volumes because they don't know if we'll be able to get anything.
Well, I went to I'm working on another project that uses a Max 10. It's different than ours. It's a Max 10 M50, but it's in a smaller package. It's in the E144 package. And I went on DigiKey, and they actually list 7 weeks as the lead time. And I'm going hot damn, 7 weeks. Let's order up a couple thousand. Been the same kind of thing. It's like, well, I got to compensate because, I may never see any. But what I suggested to them was there's the -6, the -7, and -8 speed grade. There's industrial temp. There's automotive temp. There's commercial temp. I said, look at the ones with the shortest lead times and buy 25 or however many you need by that number of each one. And whichever one comes in, then you cancel the other ones. but the problem is on the books, it looks like 1,000 parts they need when they really only need 100 because they duplicated their order 10 times for all these different parts. And so
the manufacturer's looking at it, it's like, we can't make all this crap.
Well, the problem is the distributor, the rep, he says, watch out, because if you start putting in duplicate orders for the same part, they are going to check to see what you're using. Okay, so so in other words, they're tuned into this, right? So if they see a 100-piece order for an i7 speed grade, an industrial temp speed grade, and then 100-piece price or order for an i6, then they're going to be suspicious from the same company. So I said to them, change your volumes. Order 90 of those, 110 of those, or 55 of those. And so it doesn't look like you're ordering for the same application, same slot. Now, whether that'll work, I don't know, but
You're the cause of our problems.
I'm the cause of the problem. No, this is the to be expected reaction of intelligent humans trying to get around an impossible problem.
Sure.
It's just what you'd expect. And
that's why we're short on toilet paper.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why we're short. And now, the thing about that is, in the middle of a pandemic, would you really think that toilet paper was a thing that you'd be worried about? I mean, that's not when I go to the store and I can't get enough to eat. The shelves are empty. There's no beans. The first thing I think about is toilet paper. No, the first thing I think about is where can I go get food? And I don't know about you, but every bathroom in my house has a sink. So you could actually do without any toilet paper if you had to. Okay. But no, we don't think of that. Anyway, get a little off of the subject here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what do we do about the problem though, James? I mean,
You got an order in, right?
Not for that customer yet, but it will be tomorrow probably.
No, I meant for our stuff.
Oh, it's been in, well, yeah, been in since like April of last year. I can say that now, last year.
Yes, you can.
So And then we put an order in for the Aria 10s. I don't know if I told you this, Nathaniel. I think I did a couple weeks ago. And for some reason, the salesperson saw our order for Max 10s and saw our order for Aria 10s and decided that we didn't really need both of them. One was a substitute for the other, and they canceled the Aria 10 order.
Are you serious?
We should have had parts by now of Aria 10s for the Data Engine Mark II.
Yeah.
And now they're back to, well, your address changed. Now we're not sure how to do that. Now we got to go through our Indian center to get your address changed right before we can accept an order from you. And it's like, wait, I have an order for Max 10's already on the books. You don't, I just don't understand. It's like the Three Stooges moving the piano.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so bad. You can't even, you're just astounded that they can even still be in business.
Yeah. And I mean, I know you've said before, we've said that it didn't make sense. Like the Aria 10 would be too expensive for the personal space weather station, for the grant. But if we're not able to make the regular version, and this is what we are able to get parts for, at least I can say, this is what we could get, and we've actually made something.
Yeah. Well,
and that would be very valuable, I think.
But we could go back to ARDC, I think, and get the funds to build the Data Engine Mark II. And what would NSF say if we said, well, now this isn't really what you ordered, and it really costs a lot more than your grant money, but we took care of that problem? Would they be okay?
I think it would be fine. Okay. I think the important thing is that we come up with a personal space weather station.
Yeah.
I think they will be a lot happier if we tell them, okay, look, there was a pandemic. This other part was not available, and we've tried everything we could, and we couldn't do it, but we were able to come up with this thing instead, and it performs better. There are still people who are going to buy it. Well,
I mean, I guess
we'll probably want to use some. For
the thing about it is they're already paid for, right?
Right. Yeah.
The prototypes are paid for by NSF, so that's not going to be the problem. The problem is going to be when you go to make 500 of them, they're going to be more expensive.
Well, I mean, we do what we can do.
And that's the thing, though. We might go back to ARDC and say to them, would you be willing to subsidize this to the tune of enough money to make the first 100 of them cost the same as they would before?
I think the important thing is that we come up with a design that actually, meets the goals of being a personal space weather station. And then when the cheaper part becomes available, then we can make the cheaper thing. But
yeah,
if we can create a Tangerine SDR, even if it's one that's a little bit more expensive, that works with Bill Engelke and Alabama software and does,
Well, what about if we can build one that uses the development boards that we all have?
Yeah,
that will be good too.
That'll show that it works.
Yes, as soon as we can do that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be a great prototype.
A proof of concept, right? A proof of
Yeah.
concept.
Yeah,
If we can prove that we can do this, then maybe there'll be a follow-on project. And in the meantime, maybe the supply chain settles down.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. We need that as soon as we can get that prototype development board system going. We need that.
Okay. It just seems to me that this pandemic induced supply line problem, it just can't continue on for another year. I mean, it's going to destroy the electronics market. I mean, how can, I just don't see how it can continue like this, and especially in a mostly free market system. There's a tremendous pressure on the producers. Because it's worth a lot of money when they got customers standing in line as far as you can see out the door, waving money at them, saying, give me parts, give me parts, give me parts, and they have to say no. Well, they got a big incentive to find a way to say yes. So
yeah.
So
that's the other thing I wrote.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, so Scotty, that's the other thing I wrote in my report. I basically said, yeah, we can't get the Max 10s for the data engine right now, but I said we're going to produce that development board version as soon as we possibly can.
Yeah, and we'll have the clock module and RF module, which are all done.
Yeah.
So
Let me just throw something out there. Apparently, and Dave Larson, he passes on Dave Whitten. There is also, there's a TI part for a differential extension of a SPI bus, an SPI bus. Basically works very similar to what the 9615 does. I haven't checked on the part availability. The TI makes it, probably other vendors may make it as well.
So what
And
is the part
I don't
number?
know what the size is either. The part number is, hang on just a second here. LTC 4330, I'm sorry, it's analog devices, LTC 4332. I don't know what
That's
the,
actually a
I haven't
linear
looked at,
tech part.
yeah, right, but Linear Tech is now owned by Analog Devices.
Right.
Analog Devices owns everything.
Yeah,
2332. Well, if we hurry, they've got 90 at DigiKey. Let's see.
again, I don't know what the chip size is relative to 9615, and nor have I tried it in terms of an actual distance capability, but it probably will work.
Oh, we got
Is-
lots of them in stock.
Mhm.
Mauser has 1,000. Yeah, so that if it works, let's see. Go back to something. It's a bigger part. I like this. The shortened abbreviation is SPI extend over rugged different.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. Okay, it is in, oh, this is, yeah, see, this is a dual channel one. Because they have clock and data on separate channels. That's why they do that. Okay. So
Basically, there are two channels on 9615 too, one for the SCA and the other SDA. So
yeah, you're right.
it's the same, two twisted pairs, same deal.
But why does it have so many pins? Because they've got 4 chip selects. That's one reason.
Right.
And a 20-pin QFN.
Hmm.
So we
Again,
have
we
to
might
change
run into
board.
chip size problems.
Yeah, well, I'm not worried about changing the board layout, because if we have to do that, we have to do that. The couple things worry me. One is it going to work? Because I don't want to make a run of 500 boards.
Right. Well, we'd have to try one. I'd have to buy one and gin something up and try it.
I wonder, let's see, is there a development board for this part?
Yes,
There is?
Should be.
there's an eval kit on the Analog Devices site.
Ooh, this is an $8 part. Yeah,
Yeah. It's not cheap.
Even in 500s, it's $5.
Hmm.
How much is the part the original part?
I knew you were going to ask that. Just a second, I'll tell you. The part that I can't get
Mhm.
Yeah.
is in 100. It's 97 cents.
Oh, yeah.
No, sorry, that's the temperature. Sorry. No,
Okay. I was going to say. Right.
ECA, I believe it is 9615, right?
Yep. 9615 something. Right.
Come on, don't give me this not found nonsense. $4.
Okay. Well, it's not that much.
Well, that's in onesies. Okay, what do we got in quantities? All I got is 2,500, and it's still $4. So
If you're looking at $4 in quantity versus $5 in quantity,
that's not
a big
nothing.
difference.
Doesn't
Right.
matter.
So the board's
Especially
109.99.
especially if it's the difference between building it now and building it in December of next, 12 months from now.
But we do have to test it. I could either buy a couple of eval boards or just buy the chip parts and throw them on a PC board and try it here. It wouldn't be hard to do that.
The eval board would be better because it's a QFN, so it's got no leads. And it's
Oh,
gonna
I
be
see.
hard
Okay.
to-
Yeah.
Hard to solder.
I've got a 500-foot roll of Cat 6 sitting in the garage that I can run it on.
It's a 4x5 millimeter part.
Hmm.
That's smaller than we're using the MSOP right now,
Mm-hmm.
which is, how big is it? MC, that's the DFN. Hold on, the MSOP. Got to get the right package.
There's actually plenty of room on your PC board because we really don't need, nobody's going to build an RM3100 using the layout for the for the ASIC and the transducers that you made room for on that board.
Yeah, yeah.
So all that area is available, even for a larger chip for the 9615.
Well, nobody's going to
stuff.
build it as long as they can buy the $25 board. But
Right.
when they can't get that board anymore, but they can get parts, then we could still build them.
Yeah, but it's unlikely.
As far as I'm concerned, it's free. So this part is, I believe, smaller than the part we're using. D and E, just a second. They have to give me this cryptic table. 3 by 5 millimeters is the one we're using now. And the new one is 4 by 5. Okay, so it's a millimeter bigger, big deal. I can deal with that. Besides that, half the pins we wouldn't use, so that makes it a lot easier. Yeah, so then the question is, can you make this work? Because it's really designed for SPI.
Right. Well, I mean,
So but linear tech or analog devices must have an I2C extender also. I mean,
maybe, but don't forget the RM3100 works either on SPI or on I2C. They designed it to take both buses.
right, that's right. But what about the Raspberry Pi?
Yeah, Raspberry Pi will handle SPI.
As a SPI, and then the temperature sensor ought to be changed too.
Yeah, it's true.
I think,
But maybe you can change it to temperature sensor that you can get.
Well, didn't Dave Witten go down this road already?
Yeah, he found the I2C programming was cleaner, easier. There were a bunch of definitions you have to put into SPI.
Hey, you know what? Right. My job's been so hard this past year. I don't care about software people's problems. How's that?
That sounds like fighting words.
It does sound like we should buy some of these and give it a test. And if you think that it might be something, buy maybe a few more than you would, we can make a short run or something.
Yeah, because the problem is what we're going to have to do is they're going to have to test it first and then probably make a prototype. And then, but the thing about it is if it's an I2C part, 98% of the parts on the board are going to be the same.
Right.
Yeah.
So we just buy for 500 and then we build 5 and test it. And if that works, then we go and build the other 495.
Yes.
And if it doesn't work, well, then we wait for the 98 and we wait for the 9615, whatever it is.
How much larger, Scotty, is the multiple channel I2C part, extender part that you found?
It was a 20-pin TSOP, I think. Not that much larger, but like you said, I mean, if we had to, we could do that.
I mean, that would mean basically you don't change anything else on the board because everything else remains the same.
Right. You just have 2 channels you don't use.
Yeah.
Or 1 channel you don't use.
Right.
Well, Dave Witten, it sounds like he's been through this once before. Maybe valuable to get the benefit of his experience since maybe.
Well, if I were to guess, he would probably agree with Jules.
Yeah.
Yeah, we worked together on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and you guys think a lot alike when you think about these things.
Well, I've been working on a new prototype for the magnetometer here, and it's a T1A wild theodolite, and we've got Jules's sensing coil here, and then also a mercury thermometer.
That looks like a $5 unit there to me.
Yeah.
That taped on there, and so you can pretty much dial it in.
You can tell he was a geologist, right?
I think most of these parts are available, and then if you need a compass, you can add your Brunton compass, and
yes,
on top.
There you go.
And I think all those parts are available, but it does not work with IC2.
I think I know where I can find a bunch of those in surplus.
Hey, David, if your sense of humor is any drier, we'd have to call it anhydrous, I think.
Ooh,
Oh my. Well, Analog Devices has an I2C slave extender. Of course, you can't buy any of them either.
hmm.
They're all zero. Well, I should actually, before I say that, I should look more places than one. It's an LTC 4331. Believe it or not.
Hmm.
That can't be right. Mauser has a bunch of them in stock.
Hmm.
Oh, those are 4332s. You know, computers are hard. I still don't know how to use one. Okay, 4331, factory lead time 53 weeks. 53 weeks, 53 weeks. They fired all their customers. Nope, that part's not available either, so. Nice, huh? Well, I'll keep
Glad
looking.
all of
because
my,
we may
I
be able to
think
find
that
out.
all of my other projects are software.
I think I'm going to switch to software.
Yeah.
You know, a friend of mine who was a hardware guy when I was in school, we were both hardware guys at RPI together.
Mhm.
He's now doing software. Well, he's retired now, but he was doing software. He says the reason he picked software is because he can create his own virtual reality. And he doesn't have to depend upon anything outside.
Yes.
So, okay, fine. My virtual reality is from Dante's Inferno.
Yes.
By the way, Scotty, on the Analog Devices site, if you hit purchase, they will show you if any distributors have it in stock.
Yeah.
No, nothing do.
Yeah, of course not. And you know,
And,
the one thing that we were out of was the 7-pin female headers that the RM3100 module plugs into.
Mhm.
That was unobtainium on we could get them from Sullens for 6 cents a piece.
Hmm.
60 cents a piece. But they're not available from Sullens anymore. So we had to go to, I think, Samtech, and they were like $3 a piece.
Yeah, Samtec's prices are high.
They're high, so that's why we typically don't use them. But they have lots of them.
Hmm.
So I should say that not one vendor has enough, because we would need 500 of them, even if we left them off the remote end, which we're talking about. At that price, I'll build 2 variants that I won't put them
Yeah.
on the remote end because you don't need them there. And so actually, because we thought about that, you know, the complaint was the long pins.
Yeah.
But on the local end, you don't need the RM3100 connectors, so that means you can get to the long pins. And on the far end, you don't need the long pins, so you can solder the other. So
Yeah.
you could really build 2 variants and then use long pins.
Yes.
But the thing is, the long pin sockets are like 3 times as expensive as the short pin ones. So I can gain back some of that extra cost of the Samtech parts by using short pins and just put the board on the top. You wouldn't be able to stack it then. And actually, we would give you the board and the connector, the short pin connector. So if you really wanted to stack it, you could substitute the right connector.
Yeah.
If you wanted to do that.
You can also give them longer header strips and let them cut them apart.
Yeah, that's a little problematic on female header strips because it works. It looks ugly, but it works. Sacrifice one pin, one hole, right, and cut it apart there.
Yeah, there used to be a female header that had notches in just the right place to cut through with a razor saw that left you an untouched connector pin on both sides. But I can't find those anymore.
Yeah, the male ones you can, but the female ones are all
Right.
flat, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you end up having to sacrifice one slot, one
right
thing. But
it looks ugly.
It looks ugly. Unless you want to file it down, and I'm not that much of a purist, so. But it's interesting that we could find substitutes for every single part. If we could substitute that 9804 for the 9808, except that the 9615 we can't. So anyway, I'll keep looking. I don't give up easily, but I can't fix impossible problems. So sometimes, but apparently not today.
Just gonna have to get our own fab.
Like, I don't know if I told you guys a story of when I was out on board the ship, and the captain is screaming at the chief engineer, and we could hear this we're in the radio room, right? One deck below, we could hear the captain screaming at the guy. And the poor guy comes down the stairs and he comes into the radio room. And now you got to understand, on a ship, engineers don't talk to radio guys because they're their competition, right? The engineering department wants to run everything technical on the ship, and the radio operator reports right to the captain. So he's kind of like bypasses everybody, and so he's kind of like not so popular, shall we say. So for the fact that a radio guy to come into the engineer to come into the radio room means he's really got his butt chewed good. Well, it turns out they were in dry dock and they didn't have the meters, the RPM indicators on the wings were both broken on both sides. And the captain had instructed the engineer to get them fixed in dry dock, and he didn't do it. So now they're out at sea, and the captain wants to look at the direction of the screws, twin screws. Can't do it because the meters are both burned out. So the radio operator comes into the radio room and he says, I don't know what you can do if you can fix this, but it turns out we looked at it and it's just a giant Darson-Duval moving coil meter. Just a regular, like an S meter on your regular radio, but it's a foot across. Big needle, right? So we measure it with the ohm meter. It's open. So the radio operator says, that's it, burn out. Can't fix it. So he said, well, wait a minute. I took my sewing kit, I took the needle out and I bent the end down so it was a little hook, and I jammed the needle in the coil and wiggled it around until I got continuity. And then I wired it up to the side that I didn't get continuity to. And sure enough, I shorted out about 10% of the turns of the meter, but it worked. And the captain really, all he wanted was a fore and aft indicator which way the screw was going. He didn't really care how fast, because he tells the engine room how fast, right? So he just wants to see that it's running. So he was ecstatic. But of course, you know what happens next. Well, you fix that one. Now you got to fix the other one, right? Miracle happened here, so you have to repeat the miracle again. Well, I'm going like, come on, man. You got so lucky that this even worked at all. There's no way I'm going to be able to do this again. What are the odds are not with me? So we tried it again, and sure enough, it didn't work very well. And I ended up shorting out about 90% of the turns, but it still showed fore and aft. It was just horribly inaccurate. But they were so excited. I was an apprentice, right? I made $400 a month fixed salary. And there was no way they could pay me any bonus or anything. So what they did is they paid the radio operator a $400 bonus plus taxes, and he gave me $400 in cash. They doubled my salary for a month for fixing their 2 meters. So the moral of the story is, number one, don't ever give up. And number two, good luck trying to do 2 miracles in a row.
Yeah, Navy 3, if you're going to, the best ETs in the world are Navy ETs.
Yeah. In fact, what's interesting is they told me when I signed on, they said, don't tell them you're a ham.
Yeah.
Oh.
They said that. No, they said, because apparently the hams come in, they go, oh, I'm a ham and I know everything, and you guys are all a bunch of idiots, and I'll fix everything that any problems there are. And then they can't.
Right.
So, but I thought it was funny that the radio operator gave up so easy.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my sea story.
Speaking of wanting to go all software, this is a little bit of a tangent, but I don't know. Has anyone seen this thing before?
What is it called?
Ham sphere? Yeah.
No, I've seen. What is it called? Like Dan would know this, except he's not here. Like RL Link or something. There is a program for Android.
Mm-hmm.
That will.
But
this is a different one.
But this is a completely simulated ham radio world.
Mm-hmm.
So they have
okay.
over the internet.
They have all of ham radio. They have a simulated ionosphere. There's no actual radio here at all. They're just simulating a ham radio experience.
So this is how I get into software, right? I don't have to
right.
own any hardware, right?
So even
Exactly.
your contacts are simulated, right?
No. The contacts are real. So you have to have people. Lots of people apparently. I don't know how many people. They give numbers here, but people are on both ends of the situation. So it's kind of like Zoom, but imagine putting a fake ionosphere in between here and Zoom, here and the other people on
So
Zoom.
do you have to have an FCC license?
Nope.
Well, but it says here you can even use Hamsphere without a ham radio license by using a special Hamsphere call sign to imply that there is actual signal going out somewhere.
Nope. There's no signal.
Well, but it's
Where
a
did I
signal
see
going
that?
to the server
Oh.
somewhere that comes back.
Yeah,
to
it's
you.
a signal going to the server, but there's no RF. And
Oh, okay.
they actually tout that as a feature to say that it is safe in all countries. Safe to use in all countries because there's no RF signal.
This sounds like that antenna that they were selling that uses proven RF technology. Back
Virtual reality for hams, folks. There it is.
Yeah, here you go. The system does not emit any RF and is 100% safe to operate in any country.
All right, I'm turning my ham license in.
There you go. You can sell it to the anti-5G crowd.
Everything you hear on this system is part of a big shortwave simulation called Hamsphere.
Yeah, well, now what am I going to do with my tinfoil hat?
You can make a cardboard hat now because there's no RF.
I can guarantee you there's some countries that it would not be safe to use in.
That-
Yes.
North Korea.
Because you might be put in front of a firing squad in some
So
countries.
we have to get the 75-meter users group started that gets on there and plays music and swears at you and calls you
There you
names.
go. There you
Right.
go.
No, I want the microwave satellite option. Do they include that?
I don't know. I haven't seen that.
I want the EME option.
There you
I
go.
want Mars reflection option. Come on, let's think big here.
Hey, throw WSJT in on it. FT8 in all modes.
We'll take whatever signal strength comes out of your microphone and we'll subtract 200 dB, and then that'll emulate going to Mars and back. And then too bad you can't hear anything. But
Well, you got to be able to model vibration fading and all that sort of stuff.
Easy to model the delay at least.
Sure.
I still remember a guy got on Echo Link or something, and he talked to Antarctica, and he wanted a QSL card.
Yeah, on Echolink.
On Echo Link.
Actually, I
Or
mean, if you-
IRLP, maybe.
yeah, depending on where you go to, depending on where you're communicating to in Antarctica, I would say having a communication over Echolink down to there might actually be harder than having a real HF contact.
Yes, indeed.
Why is that? Because there's no internet?
That's right.
Well, there was.
Well, there will be.
Yeah, but it's not there yet.
Well, yeah, South
It's
Pole, it's
very-
iffy.
Yeah, it's very locked down.
I got to run, guys. I'm
Very
going to say,
locked down.
I've got to run, guys. I got to say so long for this week.
7-3, Jules.
Okay.
Yeah.
Later.
Thanks, Jules.
Yeah, I'm getting up to my time.
Yeah, me too. My dinner
Well,
was late, so
Scotty-
I got a, yes.
It
Sorry.
looks like you just got to keep looking for parts.
Like I said, what I'm looking for is a new career
Yeah.
where I can
You've
actually.
already got one, a purchasing agent.
Gray marketeer. That's it.
Chip broker.
Hey, and Nathaniel, I have
As far as things we could actually do, the suggestion to use to build a working Tangerine using a few of the FPGA development kits, is that a realistic possibility? Because
That's
maybe we need to
actually
start,
in process.
we need to start talking about doing just that, so we have something to show the NSF in about 9 months.
Well, we should have it before then if I get off my whatever.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
remember, the software has to be tested.
That's true.
Yes.
No. Bill, so the way it works is that it's 9 months from now. So 8.5 months, I give you the hardware, and then you get 2 weeks of the software.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think that's gonna fly.
Bill, this is the way This is the way the hardware guys always talk to the software guys.
That's right. That's right.
Well-
So I'm getting more belligerent every day because I'm grumpy.
Well, but we have we have the hardware, the FPGA development kits now, don't we?
Yes.
Tom's actually got some software working on them.
He's got one that does something, and will it plug into our RF?
Well, as soon as we
Yeah.
build the adapter board, it will.
When can we have that by?
When can we have it by? Maybe Hamsci. Maybe by Hamsci.
Rather than talking about
That
our
would be good.
frustrations about not being able to get parts, maybe we need to, at least for now, work with the stuff that we have in hand.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I was hoping a small diversion to the magnetometer, something easy with only a few parts on it that I could actually build. And then come to find out I have the same problem on that I did on the data engine. It's like, I can't get away from this.
Yeah. Well,
We
maybe
need to, we need to
maybe we
invent
need
a
to
3D printer
prioritize-
for ICs.
Scotty, maybe we need to prioritize getting that development board hardware up and running so that we can hand that off to the software people, and
Yeah,
then
I think that's right.
Yeah.
and then